Hey everyone, this is DayTraderRockStar, and this is the high probability watch list for the week of December 8th. Wow, what a week. The first week of December, we got through it. Broadcast on your computer, you know about the issues last week with the computer, but everything is behind me on that. Trading has been, I would say, awesome. Patterns this past week. Mostly the flags have been setting up. Now, the shorts have pretty much got wiped out. I did have some shorts going into the week and trying to kind of keep a balance here because we know these markets are getting a little extended. And, trying some patterns and stuff, but the market is just too strong. So really just taking the shorts off and, just continue with the long side of the trade until, except other than, I do have some VIX, and I just added to it today, and I have some SPXU. So, I want to keep that hedge on as long as I'm, really kind of holding long stocks, just in case, something happens. It's just a little protection right now. And again, this is actually going out on Friday afternoon, so I'm starting to do this after trading all morning with everyone in the room. And I'm following this channel up here. This is going into about, looks like 1 o'clock now. And there's a nice channel. It's a nice 1, 2, 3 pattern earlier today. And this really started at 9:30. You had a pivot area here, the pivot area, even the pre-market pivot area we're concentrating on this morning. But a really good, and I actually took a short here. And it was actually against, normally I've been trading just 3 patterns or 2 patterns. This was just a technical setup here. I liked it. Was overbought, dual stochastic was overbought, tradeometer setup, and it had the trend line and the pivot, so I took that short. We got the profit real fast on that. And that was the only trade on the futures right now on that. But right now this is where we are going into 1 o'clock, and the only thing concerns me is this, this rising channel. The rising channel is all good and everything. But it's a Friday, the job numbers are behind us. The profits are, it's very nice. The market's been very nice, all-time highs. And not just, it's going to be impossible to call that high. But, when I do see an established channel like this, I'm cautious of a breakdown, especially towards the end of the day. So I did add to a little VIX today. But the market is strong, and you just do not want to go against a strong market like this. It is, like I said, the shorts continue to be pushed higher. But there's still great setup. So let's just, I want to really start off because we did a couple new positions today. I want to go over those. I also want to go over what was working and what, we have to go back here. We have to actually go back at what we were trading. Because if you could find these stocks and bring them to me, like I said, I'd say, well done. And here, I'll share 30% of my trade with you. So let's just go back. Today, I got out of NAV, and not because, and again, this counts as the watch list, even though it's probably split into 2 parts. This first part probably will go out to YouTube, and then we'll get the real watch list, the new stuff on this one. These are old trades that we've taken, so I'm kind of putting them out there in the public, but this is from last week's watch list. The NAV, textbook, this was the best bet of the week. There were so many great flags this past week, and this was typical of that type of flag. And I think we're going to look for those this week. I actually have a few of them already lined up here on the paper, and my research continues. I have another 7 hours of research to dig out some more. And I go on and off. I'll pause this video, do some more stuff, and when I have when I want to discuss something, I usually try to get on here, record it, and this process goes on all night until I finally get it done, edit it, and send it out. So NAV here right now, that was again a perfect textbook flag. Really seeing a divergence. You could really classify this as a price stochastic divergence. We're really tight in that sideways channel. This was pushing down. That's typically what happens with a price stochastic divergence. Really being able to recognize that channel is even better. So we had to get rid of that little price divergence and take a look at that channel. And the channel was pretty nice channel. I mean, it's just pretty organized. So you had everything. You had this channel. You actually had a little pop out of the channel. I mean, it was an easy. I loved the trade. I had high confidence with it. That's why it was the best bet. And to just follow through, we just took profits now. All right, we're going to fire through this. To Oshkosh, the other one, another perfect. You see the flag now, but because we bought it into that weakness, there was a reason I bought it, and we had that 60-minute time frame set up here, and we had this lower trend line. And I actually, whenever I see two good pivot areas, which are kind of reactionary trades down. Here was one candle, and here was another candle, which we got back up. I drew that, and we had this candle. It's very easy for me to draw this lower trend line, and we put it down there. We saw this first reaction, then we saw the second reaction to it with this oversold levels. So we got in there, and it was, we took that trade right to the top, and now it's, it's outside of our probability range. This is what we want to continue to trade. So looking back at that success, and this, I still like it. Still like it a lot. I do expect this to get back above the 200 period moving average, and I still expect NAV to get back up here through and make new highs. Actually, it's very close to making new highs. But we do what we do. We understand the market fluctuates, and it'd feel bad if we have to hold into. We have a nice profit, and this rising channel, if the market does start to pull back a little, it's just what we have to do. You have to make a call like that. So we continue on with what we've been trading, and again, FAST was just one that we took profits into, and this was another price stochastic divergence, and this was a really nice one. Watching this one, I think I brought this out to the midweek video watch list, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, aren't you worried about the 200 period moving average? Worried about that 60-minute time frame because we got embedded here. Well, once we got up here and we started getting embedded, an embedded stochastic really represents 3 periods of that time frame that you're looking at. So on the 60-minute chart, you're really taking a look at that 3 periods, and it has to be, it's 3 hours of actually being pinned up there. And once you start to establish that, there's pretty good chance that you're going to move a little bit higher. So with the daily, we were expecting that daily to cross over, so that was going to give us that really good push, break us through, and we took profits just took profits in it today. So that's what we're looking at on that. And again, these are all what we call high probability setups. This is only the only thing I want to bring us. If there was nothing out there, I would have to say, hey, there's nothing out there, But there might be, 6 or 7. There might be 13. And last week was one of these weeks where they all lined up. It was really nice. Let me just go through a couple more things here. Of course, the JP Morgan, which is another textbook flag. I mean, I was giddy on these flags this week. It was just tremendous, and this was really a great one. And typically, I do not trade the banks, but I said to you guys, I got to get in this. This is just, it looks out. You have to take that every time you see it, and that also played out in State Street Bank. So we're in that one. So it was very easy this week. Just because the patterns came out so clear. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you might not see anything. But when you notice this, then you have to strike. You got to strike hard. You got to that's where you got to make your money. GNRC. Now this was a kind of a cool setup because it had a divergence in it. There was a raise. Where was the divergence here? Where we last traded this, we traded this back here, and it was a nice positive lane divergence. And it popped, and it's come back, and it gave us a double bottom, and it moved up here, and it kind of flagged out here. And I think what we're looking at on this, when I got in, was that 60-minute time frame and that nice flag. And it was basically just an oversold 60. And at one point, I think these were just moving up here, was just getting back up here. Anyway, that was really the basing pattern I like. The concept of this, we've actually bottomed out here. We pushed higher, we gapped down, corrected real fast, came and kind of closed that gap and pulled back some. So, 200 period moving average. I'm not interested in it anymore. Let's let it set back up. I don't even like to short stuff like this, especially in this type of market, but I will take these flags over and over again in this type of market. So we continue to look for that. And lane divergences, which, again, if you can find them on the buy side, you have the wind in your sail. On the sell side, and you're dealing with a market that's extremely strong. So let's continue on. State Street, Oshkosh, we did that. All right, the Russian ETF here. That one stopped me out. This Russian ETF was a wedge pattern, and we actually took this a couple times. Well, actually, we took it here, and it actually was working fine, and then it came down and gapped down, back down to here. What did I do? I got in it here. We took profits. It pulled back a little, got back in, then it gapped down and got stopped out. And it was, again, with Russia anything that happens over there with the ruble, any type of thing, will affect this ETF. There is a lot of things going on over there, so it did get affected, and it just it did break down off of that. And of course, the shorts. There was a couple other good setups, and these are what we call channel. You get a channel bounce. Here we had a nice little pullback to the channel. Occidental Petroleum. I think it was another 60-minute time frame setup here. We got oversold on the 60, and we got a nice bounce, took profits. Now it's back here again. So, again, I'm going to go over these stocks coming up and show you the buy zones on these. This is also looking pretty good. So we did the Oxy trades. And, of course, some other, did we go over the other flags? Did I go over Eli Lilly? That monster flag, it was so fantastic. I mean, again, this is the type of stuff we want to continue to trade. Now, when the flags are not here, you're up here and you're hanging out and you're extended here. You know what? You don't want to overtrade. You want to maybe cut back on your shares. You want to let the market settle in, give you at least something on the 60-minute time frame, because this is your edge right here. Getting things lined up, having these levels brought to you. That's your edge. If you go outside the box, you're just, you're playing with fire. You could make it. You can make money. You can make, you can make something, but it makes it for an easier time this way. Google. All right, so let's start off here. Let's actually start going into this week's watch list. I just want to go back and just go over what we were looking at, why it worked out, and what we want to continue to look for. Now we're going to look at some new ones and some active ones right now. And this is where that video is probably going to stop right now for some people out there. And if you'd like to catch the rest of it, come over to DayTraderRadio.com, sign up, and you get it every week, plus everything else that comes along with the show and your own trading dashboard and community and everything. So have a great weekend. No, don't go anywhere, because I'm going to start the show right now. Start the watch list right now. All right, here we go.